Welcome to the Groth Gets It Podcast. We're here with one of our law clerks, James. This is going to be a interesting podcast about, well, I think the title is like your pre-law journey and legal curiosity, but we'll see what we actually get into here. So, all right, we start every podcast like we start a deposition. Say your name and spell your name for the record.
My name is James, that'd be James.
All right. Thank you. So let's talk about real stories from Groth Law, and specifically as it relates to our law clerks. We've had a couple law clerk podcasts. I don't know, have you even seen those yet? I guess I don't think they've actually hit the airwaves.
Oh, I haven't seen those yet, no.
I'm not sure if they even are hitting airwaves. When they're streaming, are they in the airwaves?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
They're probably just like in your computer waves, not really your airwaves. But in the old days, we'd say they hit the airwaves, but whatever. All right. Okay, so we have a couple law clerks who are law students, and we have a couple law clerks who are undergrads. You are one of the undergrad students.
Correct.
So tell me about that quick, and then we'll go into the questions, because my understanding from the powers that be is that you're asking me questions first. So I'm actually breaking those rules and asking you questions first. So you went into college as what kind of major?
Well, I started undergrad as a geology major, thinking that's just what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I quickly discovered that is not what I want to do.
Okay.
And I switched to what I am now, which is political science and history, thinking about going into law school.
Okay. And so one of our other law clerks wants to go to law school, like intellectual property, and she, I forget what the major was. I think it's biology. Is that right? Is that Ava's major?
Biochemical, maybe?
Like that,
biology? Right? It's something I have no knowledge of.
Intellectual property, kind of stuff. So do you have any thoughts as to what you might do then?
Well, there's a couple of things I'd like to do. Now, what action might happen is a little different, I think. But if everything works out, hopefully I'd end up somewhere doing some kind of artifact or international kind of like paleontology or some kind of like a very extinct creature law. Basically, like a good example would be something along the lines of there was a case a while ago about these Mongolian dinosaur bones that were stolen or sold improperly to a buyer in New York, and there was a whole legal case about that, and they had to bring in basically the equivalent of like a dinosaur lawyer to settle that case. Now, if I could be a dinosaur lawyer, that'd be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. So I'm going to immediately call out Robert Painter, and I will hashtag Robert and see if he can shout us out, because he was the attorney that did that. So that'd be kind of cool. Robert, if you're listening to this, I will force you to listen to it because I'll send this to you. But yeah, no, that would be cool. And there's a book, I know that I've read the book. Have you finished that book?
I'm still in the process of reading it.
Okay. It's an interesting book.
It's fascinating, yeah.
Cool. So, and then I saw constitutional law.
Yes. So initially, constitutional law is probably going to be where I'd focus on in law school before I get into more of like the niche that is kind of artifact law.
Yeah.
Just because the Constitution is such an interesting document in the first place. Every single day there's new things are coming out, new verdicts, new decisions, new just everything pertaining to what is kind of one of the most interesting and malleable documents kind of in the history of the legal system, I think.
Yeah.
So just to be able to interact with that and to hopefully one day have some kind of impact in that would be a dream come true.
Well, and I guess I didn't realize how many lawyers actually do constitutional law.
There's a lot, yeah.
Right? I mean, when I went to law school, Professor Eidelman was my con law professor, and I thought, okay, well, there's that guy, one person that does constitutional law, and then maybe some lawyers that work for the federal government that do constitutional law. But then when you think about it, there's the ACLU, there's the various liberty type associations. There's Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. There's other groups all across the nation that are doing really constitutional law, or even like improper takings or eminent domain. Those are all constitutional law questions. So it's fascinating. Yeah, there's lots and lots of people out there who are doing well and who need a constitutional lawyer because, Constitution is kind of an important document, right? We don't deal with it really ever. We talk about it in very broad brushstrokes, but we don't really handle any constitutional type cases other than when we're arguing before, or let's say there's a jury trial. We'll talk to the jury initially and say that we have a constitutional right to a trial by jury. That's why you're here, and that's why your job as a jury is so important. But other than that, a one-off kind of comment, there's very little constitutional law that I've ever really practiced. So cool. So good for you. Good for
Thanks.
you. That's neat. All right, so let's have James ask some questions of me. Now you have handwritten questions. That's probably unfair because I was given some questions that I thought you were going to ask. So now you're going to throw me for a loop here.
They're related to these.
Okay.
They're based off of. They're follow-ups if need be.
Deal.
So the first question that we have written down here is kind of a broader one. It would just be, what do you think contributes most to the long-term sustainability of a law firm? Very broad, very general.
What do I think contributes to the long? So no, I thought you weren't going to ask that question because you had your own handwritten questions. To the long firm sustainability, really, it's quality of work, because I think quality of work is going to get you through the good times and the bad times. If you have a law firm and lawyers that are good at what they do, your reputation precedes you, and you'll be able to get cases, right? You'll get referrals, word of mouth, those kind of things. So I think it has to start with that, and it all kind of flows from that, because then you can market that, and you're going to get, with more aggressive marketing, get more clients. But if you have a law firm that if you have a law firm that has lawyers that aren't that skilled in what they do, and they do lots of marketing, in my opinion, they're not going to get very far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some examples in our state where that exact situation happened. And I can think of a number of them just off the top of my head, where lawyers were ultimately, some of the name partners were disbarred because they weren't good at what they do, or they just had a really bad reputation, and they were able to get by, but it wasn't any kind of long-term, it wasn't sustainable in the long term. Mm-hmm. So what do I think contributes most is probably quality of work.
I'm kind of going off that. How do you think in the coming years the innovations with AI and other technical advancements will contribute to or impact the quality of work you just talked about at all?
Funny you should ask that, because I just spent and this is why we're recording so late, I just spent the last hour and a half on a Zoom call with an expert from Brazil about artificial intelligence. So what do I think, what role does artificial intelligence or LLMs have in our quality of work? I think it has a huge role, because it's going to enable us to help more people with the same kind of quality of work. I mean, in our business, luckily, knock on wood, our firm, I should say, has had the ability to grow and have a lot of people that we're helping. So because of that, and I'll just take, for example, the past couple months, if we have hundreds of people who call us in any given month, how do we have, and the month before we might have 40 people. So if it's 40 people, it's easier to look through those cases, get medical records, do things like that. But then if for some reason, because there's a lot of bad drivers out there, the next month goes to 90 people, well, 40 to 90 is a big difference. How do we change scale that fast, one of the ways is with the help of artificial intelligence or LLMs or machine learning, because it's almost impossible to hire twice as many people to do that kind of work that fast. So that's what you really have to be nimble in your technology, that you're set up in such a way that if you have a busy month for whatever reason with new clients coming in, or let's say there's a client who came in that suddenly you get 15,000 pages of medical records. Well, you need to have those medical records reviewed as soon as you can. Well, artificial intelligence can at least help us, guide us along the way, as long as it's done properly, faster than maybe 2, 3, 4 full-time staff people looking through 15,000 pages of medical records. So that's, I think, one of the ways is you can get to help people faster, and especially nowadays, that's the expectation. We're in this instant society. Well, we're victims, and really anybody looking for a lawyer's help is looking for almost instantaneous answers. So we have to, go with the flow and make sure we're on top of that we're adjusting. My second boss, way back 25 plus years ago, talked about his father, who was a lawyer, and his father used to have martini lunches, they would call them. So they would go to work in the morning, at about 11 or whenever it was, they'd finish up, and then they'd go to lunch, and then they'd come home. And this is, I think, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, sleep off their lunch on the couch, and then review the documents that they dictated. So sorry, I missed that. They would dictate all morning. So they'd have a dictation device on a tape or on a machine. They'd dictate to their staff. Staff would then spend all the next few hours typing up what they heard, and then when those documents are ready to be reviewed, then the lawyers would review the documents, give them back to edits, and then over the next few days, that document would be created and sent to their client over mail. This is before faxes, over mail, and then maybe 6 days later, they'd get a response back from their client, or 3 days later, after the client got the document, they'd make a phone call back to the client. Well, think about now. I mean, now we're looking at texting where there's immediate responses, that's a whole different world. So I think looking at the robots helping us answer questions in real time is what's really, really a necessity these days. Hopefully that answered your question.
I think
I went on a couple tangents there, but that's typical of me. All right, next question, sir.
All right. I think kind of relating to that, kind of mentioned that kind of the evolution of from dictation machines and kind of the typing out something and almost instant response now, AI and other advancements, kind of pivoting a little bit. Do you think there is still space in a legal field to carve out a niche speciality, kind of like artifact law or other things? I mean, with these advancements, kind of how, at the very least, the legal world is becoming, I don't know if you agree with this, a little more consolidated, and we now have all this technology. There's a fear that maybe some areas of law will be overcome with robotics or some other areas. I don't know if you'll be replace a lawyer entirely, but
yeah, so that's a concern I have every day, right? Because when you're talking about the long-term sustainability of a practice, how do we adjust? And looking at I'll say the attacks on personal injury law from other lawyers, big law firms, lawyers coming in from out of state and practicing in Wisconsin, advertising in Wisconsin. I think that's a concern. I think insurance companies are using technology in certain ways so they can get in front of people faster to try to give them lowball settlements. I think so. That's a concern. And I think in general, that's going to affect every single aspect of the law. I mean, everybody's going to have to deal with it. If you're drafting a contract, you're going to have to deal with, well, how do I draft a contract compared to, can somebody just go online to LegalZoom and have LegalZoom's artificial intelligence, LLM model, draft a similar contract? So you're not going to, teen a lawyer down the street. You're just going to LegalZoom online, and a similar document is drafted, and it's maybe just as good. Now, there's the ethics behind that. I don't know that aspect of it. I don't want to know that aspect of it, but I think it's a general concern. About creating niches, I think there's always going to be a need for lawyers, because not everyone's going to be able to, is going to have the access to a lawyer. You're not all the president of Harley Davidson that can easily pay for some big law firm to come and answer your questions. So I think there's always going to be the need for a lawyer to explain the law to others in society. Mm-hmm. I'll try to make it nice. So that's where I think you really have to look at, how do you bridge that gap between the law and humanity? If you can find that aspect, that answer, that's, I think, where you can be able to make some money, given make a living, given the rise of the robots. You're not going to be able to compete with robots because they're going to be able to review medical records. So don't become or don't set out after law school to create a law firm that just reviews medical records, or probably just creates contracts. In my opinion, I don't think that's going to be fruitful. I think it's going to be the attorney who can work with AI and then be able to explain that to the vast majority of society. That's the person who's going to be able to live as a lawyer in the future. And the same thing goes with, let's say, archaeology law, right? I mean, you're dealing with Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm trying to think of a better dinosaur than Tyrannosaurus Rex. Brachiosaurus. Give me some dinosaurs.
Pachycephalosaurus.
Pachycephalosaurus. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with Pachycephalosaurus. Are they, who owns the Pachycephalosaurus bones? Under which treaties? You can use AI to help you understand that, and making that argument to a judge, and across different cultures and across different continents. I think that's where you're going to be able to create that niche, but you're going to have a lot of experience in Pachycephalosaurus from Japan and Pachycephalosaurus from Canada, and explaining what Pachycephalosaurus in Canada means to Canada. I think that's where you're going to be able to make your living. Because if you're just looking at, does Canada have the right to Pachycephalosaurus bones, I think you could ask AI that, and it'll probably answer the question, and that's it. But looking beyond that, making the argument to a judge, I think, is where you're going to have to use your skills, and where those humans are going to be required. So, hope that makes any sense. But that's me as a trial lawyer also, because that's what I want to do. And I'm hoping that as a trial lawyer, we're going to have, we're going to be necessary for a long time, so I can have a job for the next however many decades. So, yeah. Next question.
All right. Going off that, we've been talking a lot about the future. Kind of want to turn quickly and go towards the past for a second.
The past.
So, I think you mentioned, being a trial lawyer. Mm-hmm. What are some of when you were starting up this firm? What are kind of some of the most difficult aspects of trial that you encountered as not only kind of a newer lawyer, but now as the head of a firm that is brand new? When you were first kind of starting out, were there any like obstructions that you didn't think you would overcome, or there are obstacles that you didn't think you would have to face at all?
Yeah. Boy. Good question. I want to tell some stories about before I started the firm, obstacles, but that's not the question. So the question is, after we started the firm, I think the nice thing about after starting the firm is that there was a lot of time because there weren't a lot of cases. Luckily, I had a reputation where people were willing to help me and refer cases to me, and I had done my groundwork, and I had reached out to other lawyers across the state, and I would go to their office and ask them, do you have any cases for me to work on and put into suit, and I'll do the depositions and do the trial. And there were a number of lawyers that took me up on that. But because I didn't have hundreds of clients, I was able to concentrate on the clients that I had. But that didn't last very long. I mean, that, again, luckily or unluckily, we grew kind of exponentially pretty quick. And then it was turning more into working on the business versus in the business. And that was the biggest issue I had, was making that mental switch from working in the business to working on the business. And once I made that mental switch to work on the business, then that's where we went from 3 or 4 staff people to whatever we are now, 30, 40. I don't know how many people we have. If you consider all the virtual assistants, we're probably 40 plus, I believe. But yeah, so obstacles I had, looking back, it was fun to do that because I could just simply concentrate on that case. And you could take 3-4 days to work on one case because there weren't 15 people calling you during the day, and then maybe there were 1, 2, or 3 people calling you during the day, but it wasn't that busy where all I was doing was taking new client calls, for example, or all I was doing was requesting all the medical records. The obstacle is time, and then how do you manage your time and handle those cases wisely and handle your calendar wisely. So, did that answer your question?
I think so, yeah.
I hope so.
It boils down to almost time management.
It's always time management, James. It's always time management. And so my other boss said, and this is something that's difficult. When you are your own boss, you can do whatever you want. And he would say, do the worst first. So I know that's been said once or twice.
Yes.
Do the worst first, and that's tough to have that self-control that you come into the office and I'm in charge of the office and I don't want to draft that brief, but it's 8 a.m. I probably should start and get it done, or at least start it. I'd rather just put it off because it's not due until Friday and it's Monday. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to start it, so I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and it's like, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then Wednesday comes, it's like, I'm going to do it on Thursday. And then Thursday comes and it's like, okay, now you spent the entire day. And then every single time somebody would call with an emergency on Thursday, and it's like, okay, now I'm working till 10, 11, 12 p.m. because I messed up and I took advantage of being my own boss. So I've luckily learned from that mistake, that you have to at least work on things before they become urgent and important. That's the whole, what's that called? The
Eisenhower matrix.
The Eisenhower matrix, yeah. Is it the Eisenhower matrix?
Eisenhower.
Whichever matrix
graph.
it is, it's
something.
Work on that graph so you are more productive. And that's something that I think is time tested. It's, there are people smarter than me who came up with that matrix, and it works. You just have to have the self-control to take advantage of other people's brain power and use it for how you practice law, or how you do your homework, or how you manage your lifestyle in general. Yeah. Good stuff. Next question.
All right. I think appreciate the answer. So kind of also looking towards kind of that same area, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's thinking long-term about their legal career, even before starting law school, like me and some of our other clerks? Kind of what were some things that you figured out that were like during your early days as not only a lawyer, but kind of, as I said before, as a burgeoning businessman, looking towards, kind of looking back and forward. Yeah. Are there any things you had done, any things you did do that helped you later on, or things you did to prepare yourself for law school that ended up carrying through towards today? Take
lots of different classes that will help you kind of hone in what you want to do. I initially thought I wanted to be a DA. That didn't work out very well based on my criminal law class. I then wanted to do international law. I took some international law classes, realized that wasn't for me. I wish I would have taken more business classes. I think someday I might go and take more business classes. But I luckily discovered that I liked the trial aspect, and I took different trial classes, trial advocacy classes, and that was really, because of the experience I was given, I was able to hone into that niche. So, but it took me a while to get there, right? When I went into law school, in undergrad, I had different thoughts of what I should do. Would I run campaigns? Would I run for office? Would I go into the military, the officer school, or go to law school? And luckily, I got into law school. Unluckily or luckily, I lost the campaign I was running. So that was either good or bad or whatever. I don't know where I'd be if we won. But because I tried out those different things, that helped me to get to the decision that I made in law school that, okay, I think I like campaigning. So let's use that aspect with, campaigning in law. Well, who in the law runs for office? Well, back then my thought was a district attorney. District attorneys in Wisconsin run for office. It's like, okay, I want to be a DA. So then I went into took criminal law classes. It's like, okay, I don't like this. So, okay, I still like the campaigning. Well, that's kind of like marketing. And then eventually got to where I'm in now, where I like campaigning because it's also advocating. So that's trial work. So I enjoy that. And then go all the way forward to, now I enjoy the trial work. I enjoy advocating and marketing and selling our business. Doing this is kind of like campaigning, right? We're campaigning for the Groth Law brand as opposed to, President so-and-so or Governor so-and-so. So that I can use that skill, hopefully, that I've accumulated over the years to help the business. And I think it's kind of fun. So it's always nice to do something that you enjoy and you're kind of good at. So there we go. All right, now it's my turn. Now because I'm getting the wave off. Good questions. Let's see. Let's turn the tables. You've been around the firm all summer, even before summer, I guess. Technically, it was May. May is technically not really summer. So is that May, June, July? That's like almost, we're going on almost 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Wow. What have you observed or learned that surprised you about a law firm?
I think something I've kind of observed and also kind of experienced is really just how much preparation, how much kind of investigation you have to do before you even get to like the initial, like you file a notice of circumstance, or even before you even begin to kind of embark on this journey before you go to trial or settlement, how much work you have to put in, like for documents, how much work you have to put in just to see what people are doing, like how much detail you need. And how much I've had to do in terms of discovering details has been really fascinating, and it's been really enjoyable work as well. Mm-hmm. So just being able to do that kind of stuff, and it sounds, mundane, but just that process is really interesting. It's something I never thought about. My legal experience before this has really been mostly like what you see on TV, what you see on media, what you kind of see from talking to certain people. The best case you can give is like a Law and Order episode. It goes so fast. It's so instant. Whereas here it's
42 minutes.
42 minutes.
Yeah, right.
And like nothing that's done here can happen in 42 minutes. It's such an extensive process, and it's so detailed and thorough that it's just being a part of that. It's really interesting. It's something that I didn't really think about, that you wouldn't really think about before you came and you actually worked for a law firm.
Cool. I agree. Yeah, that's something that you have to explain to clients, that it's not just a lawyer's advice that they're paying for. They're paying for the medical records retrieval and the time that it takes to do that, and then the paralegal reviewing documents, and not only the documents themselves, but the knowledge that okay, I need to file this document within 120 days. So you're paying for the experience of the lawyer and the law firm. Maybe 25 years, and not just it's not just a cookie cutter kind of approach, right? All right, cool. Constitutional law, archaeology, and such. What is it about those areas that interests you?
That's a good question. Well, as I was kind of saying before, really with constitutional, it's just the ability to go in and kind of peruse a document that's as old as not only the nation, but kind of it has origins even before in history. Although you can trace it all the way back to even the Magna Carta. Just having the weight of centuries in a document is one that's fascinating to me.
Where was the Magna Carta signed?
That was a great question.
Wasn't it like a field?
It's I think it was maybe in
field,
Flanders.
Like a tent, right?
It was in a giant tent. After King John lost a battle, he was forced to sign it by the barons of, I think it was England. I don't think he was in England. I couldn't remember. English history.
Tent, right?
Yes, it was
like
a giant
field
tent.
And a tent. Like not like some room.
Oh no,
it was.
No.
It's a really important document that was signed in a tent. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, all right, sorry. So that's constitutional law. What about archaeological type property and such?
Well, I've always, not only had an interest in kind of, as I kind of said, ancient documents. Pachycephalosaurus, Tyrannosaurus. Growing up, dinosaurs were Ichthyosaurus.
Now I'm thinking of different dinosaurs.
Coming back to you.
Ichthyosaurus. What's the one from Jurassic Park with the big, the fish dinosaur?
Oh, Spinosaurus?
Spinosaurus? Spinosaurus
has the sail.
Yeah, the sail.
There's the Mosasaurus.
That was the most recent Jurassic Park where they had the sail.
Mm-hmm.
What was the Mosasaurus?
Mosasaurus,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, sorry.
So all those are just not only fascinating, but it's something that you really don't ever think you need a lawyer for, something you would never really think about. So there's still a lot of unbroken ground, I think, that, it'd be fun just to be a pioneer in that field. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, I don't believe I possess the math skills necessary to go into a full-time career as an archaeologist, but the legal aspect of it, being able to combine a fascination of mine with a possible career, that not only is probably a good career choice overall, but it's also something that it would be just amazing to work on.
Yeah. What are like environmental classes, right? So, and then, really property law. I think generally property law would probably be important. The law of property rights in general. Maybe really international property law. Now they get more specific about it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. What other questions? Because we are way over time already. Let's see. Let's just jump right to the. 'Cause I'm going to get in trouble if I talk too much because this is always on me. If you're going to give a TED Talk on anything other than the law, what would it be?
I don't think you want. Oh, I will. I'll be brief about my answer because I know we're already over time. Because I could give a TED Talk right now about certain subjects. But if I had the choice, I'd love to give it on something relating to just nuclear energy structures and how a nuclear
energy structures. Where does that come from? We just got done talking about Ichthyosaurus and Pachycephalosaurus.
It's a bit of a renaissance, man, I think.
Okay.
There's many things I'm interested in.
Nuclear energy structures. What do you mean structures as it relates to nuclear energy?
Look, in nuclear energy grids, how you get nuclear energy to different areas, how you can set up nuclear energy in a sustainable fashion, where you put the waste, how you get your power sources, where you build your structures, what the reactor composition is, what reactor you use, how you provide fail-safes. That's the thing is like why I would give a TED Talk, because there's so many different facets that go into such an interesting power source. And really also because we discovered a rock that gives us energy. We just are afraid because it exploded a couple of times, which is a little interesting to...
Which rock gives us energy?
Uranium, plutonium.
Okay. All right. Is uranium a rock?
Yeah, it's a mineral.
Okay.
It's a solid object we harvest from the earth, so I generalize it as a rock.
I never thought of uranium as a rock.
Well, that's the thing, you don't. It's really interesting because after...
It shows my lack of knowledge about rocks, I guess, but okay.
After the Cold War ended, we kind of stopped thinking about nuclear energy because we were all so afraid of it.
Yeah.
And really, it's the advancements we've made in the past 30 years in these areas. I know there's a place, there's a project going on in France where they're trying to create a fusion battery, which would provide, it's the same reaction that goes on in the sun. If anyone's ever seen Spider-Man 2, like power of the sun in the palm of my hand, that's possible within the next 30 years, which is just, I can go on and on and on about it. But it's fascinating things, the advancements we can make.
It says Jack Kirby.
It says Jack Kirby.
Was he the Spider-Man guy?
No, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee.
But so who is more in charge of Spider-Man? Stan Lee,
I think.
Okay.
Jack Kirby is Fantastic Four, mutants. Well, no, Stan Lee is mutants.
So based on Stan Lee.
Well, it's also actual science. That's the fun thing about fiction is that it inspires scientists.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
It's also...
So now I'm curious. I'm going to look for a TED Talk on this so I can learn more about this.
Oh, there's dozens.
Yeah. Okay. So other than nuclear energy structures, what other things would you give a TED Talk on?
Well,
I'm interested because now this is going to be like a 3-hour-long podcast because I want to know these other topics.
Well, and that's the thing is that if I could, I'd love to. I'm a Constitution and the archaeology law. My basis for my fascination and my intrigue in those fields is history. I'm a history buff since the day I was born. So if I could give any type of TED Talk on kind of, you heard of Byzantine trade routes? Those are really interesting.
Byzantine. So I'm assuming Byzantine trade routes relate to the Byzantine era and trade routes throughout Europe into like India and China?
In Asia, yes.
Asia, yeah.
So it's interesting.
Like Marco Polo? Was he during Byzantine?
That'd be a little bit after.
Okay.
So actually it might be before. It's the fall of the Byzantine Empire is interesting because I say Byzantine trade routes. You can directly trace the discovery of America to the fact that Constantinople fell to the invading, I believe it was the Ottomans, and when they invade and sack Constantinople, it cuts off all trade going east from Europe. So Europe has to find new trade routes that embarks in this whole age of discovery. Marco Polo, Amerigo Vespucci, like all these guys are inspired to go.
They got to go somewhere.
They got to go somewhere, and they can't go through Constantinople anymore.
The king and queen of Spain say, "Hey, start going this way."
Yeah, start going this way.
You can't go that way. Yeah.
And or try to find a different route around the Horn of Africa, or we had to find some other way to go around. So I think Amerigo Vespucci and then the other guys, Christopher Columbus, all these guys get the idea, well, let's just go the other way, see if we can't go around the other side of the world. It's like, oh, and then there's a whole other place over there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the kind of the chain of events, that kind of how things are caused. You wouldn't really think about it. I mean, it's really interesting to think that, a city falling, a city as old as kind of one of the oldest cities in the world falling to in kind of a inconsequential at that point. It's just kind of, it's been weakened by centuries of decay and corruption.
At this point, was it Istanbul or Constantinople?
Oh, it's Constantinople until it becomes Istanbul. So the Ottomans name it Istanbul.
So Tyree didn't get that joke. There's They Might Be Giants song, Istanbul, not Constantinople. It's a song. So we should, it's probably a trademark issue if we put that music over the top of this part of the podcast.
I don't know if you'll get it, but it's
an awesome song. It's a great song.
But so that's where it comes from, is that Constantinople becomes Istanbul because the Ottomans come in, and it's now they make it as their capital.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So this personal injury podcast has now turned into, let's talk about the Byzantine Empire. Tyree's falling asleep over there. But it is fascinating. Cool. All right. What are you most excited or nervous about in your last 2 years of college? And then the next question I have is about the potential of law school.
So I think the next 2 years of college really...
Assuming it's 2 years. Maybe it will be more.
Maybe more.
Hopefully you're a rising junior.
Yes.
So you have junior and senior year. Yeah, so for the next couple of years.
So if everything goes according to plan, 2 years. That'd be great.
Yep.
I think that really the big thing is how, unlike a lot of people who are in my position, I'm looking towards additional years of school. And just how does that look going forwards? I think really the thing is kind of repeating the process of looking for schools is kind of the most stressful, nerve-wracking thing I have to do. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting because when it's the same thing and it's different. It's instead of being a high school kid looking at, oh my gosh, college is the next big thing. Now it's, I'm a undergrad looking towards an advanced degree. I have to look on similar criteria, but also it's an entirely different criteria. Yeah. Because I've gone through undergrad. I'm assuming undergrad is significantly different from law school or any type of grad school. Yeah. So really just that preparation, like taking the LSAT, taking a lot of classes, just trying to focus more and see how I can make myself stand out to a law school. How I can do that is the stressful part kind of going forward, up on top of the fact that I have to finish the next 2 years of college. Yeah. So really, that is probably the biggest kind of stressor I have, or nerve-wracking issue I'd have going forward. It's also exciting, I would say. It could just that next step in my career as a student.
Well, it's a lot of stuff, but I guess the saying is, when you're dealing with lots of stuff, what's the saying?
Was it the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time?
There we go. The best way to eat an elephant. The best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Right? Take those chunks, and then we'll eventually the elephant will be gone. So, and that major stressor will be behind you. Cool. All right. That's all the questions I have, because now we're way over time. Let's see. Thank you very much. Thoughtful questions. Been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Pleasure having you here all summer. I know you're going to go off and do great things. Let's see. Thanks everyone for listening to the Groth Gets It podcast. Thanks for the stories that you've given us and the good questions and the great insight. Don't forget, Groth Gets It and Groth Gets You.